I still remember the way he grabbed my arm. Not hard, but urgent. "Tomorrow, don't get in your car," he whispered. "Take the bus instead." I laughed at first. I mean, why wouldn't I? But then he leaned closer and said something that made my stomach drop. "If you get in that car, you won't make it home." I looked at his face, serious, pale, almost scared. This was the same man my husband fired and threw away like trash. The same man I'd secretly been helping for over a year. And before I could ask what he meant, he said, "You'll understand when you see who gets on that bus." At that moment, I had no idea that one small decision, car or bus, was about to expose a secret my husband had been hiding for years. I still remember the exact moment my world cracked open. Not shattered. Not exploded. Just cracked. The kind of crack you don't notice right away, but once you do, you can never unsee it. I was stepping out of the grocery store, balancing 2 bags in my arms, mentally planning dinner, when I felt someone touch my elbow. Not grab. Not shove. Just enough to stop me. I turned, already annoyed, until I saw his face. It was Mr. Otis, my husband's former driver. The man my husband fired last year and kicked out with nothing but his dignity bruised and his pockets empty. His eyes looked different. Wide. Sharp. Almost afraid. He leaned in close, lowering his voice so no one else could hear. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "don't get in your car." I blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "Take the bus," he said quickly. "The Fairview route." I let out a nervous laugh, because that's what you do when something sounds ridiculous. But he didn't laugh back. Instead, his grip tightened, just slightly, and his voice dropped even lower. "If you get in that car tomorrow, you won't make it home." That's when my stomach dropped. I searched his face, waiting for a smile. A joke. Anything to tell me this wasn't real. There was nothing. Just fear. At that moment, I had no idea that one small choice, car or bus, was about to expose a secret my husband had been hiding for years. I pulled my arm free and took a step back. "What are you talking about, Otis? Are you sick?" He shook his head slowly. "You helped me when nobody else would," he said. "I won't let them hurt you." Them. Before I could ask what that meant, he straightened up, glanced around the parking lot, and whispered one last sentence that still echoes in my head. "You'll understand when you see who gets on that bus." And then, just like that, he walked away. I stood there frozen, grocery bags digging into my palms, my heart pounding like it was trying to warn me before my mind could catch up. Because here's the thing. This wasn't just some stranger. This was a man I had been secretly helping for over a year. My husband never knew. Every week, I slipped Mr. Otis a little cash. Sometimes groceries. Sometimes just a hot meal and conversation. I told myself it was the right thing to do. That kindness didn't need permission. But standing there in that parking lot, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Fear. Because suddenly, his warning didn't feel random, it felt earned. That night, I barely slept. I lay next to my husband, listening to his breathing, staring at the ceiling, replaying Otis's words over and over. "Don't get in your car. Life or death. You'll understand." I watched my husband carefully the next morning. The way he avoided my eyes. The way he checked his phone twice before leaving the room. The way he kissed my cheek like everything was normal. It made my skin crawl. I stood in the kitchen holding my car keys, turning them over in my hand. I told myself I was being dramatic. That stress does strange things to your imagination. That Otis was probably confused or scared or overreacting. But then I remembered his face. That fear doesn't lie. So I did something I never do. I left my car in the driveway and walked to the bus stop instead. I had no idea that by choosing the bus, I was choosing the truth. And once you see the truth, there's no going back. As the bus pulled up, its doors hissing open, my heart raced. I stepped inside, paid my fare, and found a seat halfway back. I told myself this was just a precaution, just a test. But deep down, I knew better. Something was waiting for me on this bus. Something my husband never wanted me to see. And as the doors closed behind me, I realized this wasn't about a warning anymore. It was about survival. And when the bus started moving, I finally understood. Whatever secret my husband was hiding, it was already in motion. As the bus rolled forward, my mind drifted backward. Back to the secret I had kept for over a year. The secret no one knew. Not my friends, not my family, and definitely not my husband. Mr. Otis hadn't always been invisible. For years, he was part of our daily life. Every morning, he waited outside in a clean, pressed uniform, holding the door open, greeting my husband with respect. He knew our schedules, our habits, our moods. And then one day, he was gone. No explanation. No goodbye. I asked my husband what happened, and he shrugged like he was talking about a broken appliance. I let him go, he said. He wasn't useful anymore. That word stuck with me. Useful. That was the first moment I realized how differently my husband and I saw people. A few weeks later, I ran into Mr. Otis outside a small discount store. He looked thinner, older, like life had taken something from him and never gave it back. We talked. At first, it was polite, awkward. Then he told me the truth. After being fired, he lost his apartment. His savings were gone within months. No references. No calls returned. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't careless. He was discarded. I remember standing there, listening, feeling something heavy settle in my chest. Because the man standing in front of me had given years of loyalty and was treated like he never mattered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how easily my life could fall apart if someone else made a decision for me. So the next time I saw Mr. Otis, I did something small. I bought him groceries. The time after that, I slipped him some cash. Then a hot meal. A winter coat. Bus fare. Nothing dramatic. Nothing heroic. Just human. At the time, I thought I was helping quietly. I didn't realize I was stepping into something dangerous. I never told my husband. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew he wouldn't understand. He believed kindness should come with conditions. That help should be transactional. That people who fail deserve it. I didn't believe that. Every time I helped Mr. Otis, I felt grounded. Like I was still myself. But there was also guilt. I hid receipts. I made excuses. I lied by omission. And the longer it went on, the heavier that secret became. Sometimes, Mr. Otis would look at me with this quiet gratitude that made me uncomfortable. Like he knew something I didn't. Like he was watching the world more closely than I was. Looking back now, I think he was. Because the man I thought I was helping was actually watching something unfold behind the scenes. The bus jolted slightly as it turned onto the main road. I glanced around at the other passengers. A woman scrolling on her phone. A teenager with headphones. An elderly man staring out the window. Normal people. Normal lives. And yet my chest felt tight. Because suddenly, the warning didn't feel like paranoia. It felt like a debt. Mr. Otis had stayed quiet for a year. Watched. Listened. And now, after everything I'd done for him, he was paying me back the only way he could. With the truth. I wrapped my coat tighter around me and stared straight ahead. Whatever was coming next, I knew it was connected to my husband. And deep down, I knew something else too. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about how long someone can live a lie before it finally starts moving toward you. And as the bus picked up speed, I realized my husband's secret wasn't behind me anymore. It was catching up. The bus doors hissed shut behind me. For a moment, everything felt normal again. The engine hummed. The city moved. Life went on like nothing was wrong. But my hands were shaking. Not visibly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. Just enough for me to know this warning wasn't something I could brush off. Don't get in the car tomorrow. Mr. Otis's voice replayed in my head over and over. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Certain. When someone speaks like that, it means they're not guessing. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he misunderstood something. Maybe he overheard gossip and panicked. Maybe this was just fear dressed up as urgency. But the more I tried to calm myself, the worse it got. Because Mr. Otis wasn't impulsive. He was careful, quiet, observant. He spent years watching people without being noticed. If anyone knew how to read danger before it arrived, it was him. The bus hit a red light. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Just a reminder notification. Dinner with David, tomorrow 7:00 p.m. My husband. Seeing his name made my stomach twist. Not because I suspected him yet, but because suddenly, I didn't feel safe assuming I knew him. The scariest moment in any marriage isn't discovering a lie. It's realizing you never thought to look for one. That night, I watched him differently. The way he laughed at the news. The way he scrolled through his phone just a second too long before locking it. The way he asked how my day was, without actually waiting for the answer. Nothing obvious. That was the problem. He kissed my cheek before bed like he always did. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering how many times danger looks exactly like comfort. Around midnight, I got up quietly and went to the kitchen. I told myself I was just getting water. But my feet carried me somewhere else. His briefcase. It sat exactly where it always did. I stood there for a full minute before touching it. Once doubt enters your mind, curiosity stops being optional. I opened it. Slowly. Carefully. Inside, papers. Receipts. Nothing illegal at first glance. Then I noticed something odd. A folded document tucked into the side pocket. Not work-related. Not personal. A rental agreement. Short-term. Out of town. Starting tomorrow morning. My pulse spiked. Tomorrow. The same day Mr. Otis told me not to get in the car. I flipped the page. There was a second name listed. Not mine. And not anyone I recognized. That was the moment I realized, whatever was coming, I wasn't supposed to be part of it. I put everything back exactly as I found it. No confrontation. No questions. I needed time. And more importantly, I needed distance. The next morning, I told my husband I had an early meeting and would take the bus. He didn't argue. He didn't ask why. He just nodded and said, "That's fine." Too easily. As I stepped outside, the air felt sharper than usual. Clearer. Like the world was holding its breath. The bus arrived. I climbed aboard and sat near the back. And that's when I saw it. Through the front windshield. In the side mirror reflection. My husband's car was parked across the street, engine running, waiting for me. I froze. Not dramatically. Not visibly. Just long enough to confirm what my eyes were seeing. My husband's car was idling across the street. Same spot he never parked in. Same angle, perfect view of the bus stop. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't distracted. He was watching. When someone is waiting for you without telling you, it's never for a good reason. The bus doors opened. People stepped on casually, coffee cups, earbuds, half-awake faces. I stayed seated. My heart wasn't racing yet. It was sinking. Because suddenly, Mr. Otis's warning snapped into focus. Don't get in the car tomorrow. Not don't go to work. Not stay home. Don't get in the car. I imagined it. Me walking over. Opening the passenger door. Asking why he was there. And whatever came next. The bus pulled away. As it did, I glanced back through the window. His car didn't move. He didn't follow. He just sat there, watching me leave. That was when fear finally turned into certainty. He had expected me to get in. The ride never happened. But whatever was planned hadn't disappeared. It had just missed me. The bus ride felt longer than usual. Every stop felt exposed. Every passenger felt unfamiliar. I kept replaying the last 12 hours in my head. The rental agreement. The unknown name. The way he didn't question me taking the bus. This wasn't coincidence. This was choreography. Someone had planned this. And I had stepped off script. The most dangerous thing you can do to a manipulator is act unpredictable. I got off 3 stops early. I didn't know why, I just needed space. I walked into a small cafe and sat near the window. Hands wrapped around a cup I didn't remember ordering. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my husband. "You okay? You forgot your lunch." I stared at the message. It wasn't concern. It was confirmation. He was checking whether his plan still had access to me. I typed back carefully. "All good, long day ahead." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally. "Drive safe." My chest tightened. Because he knew I wasn't driving. When someone pretends not to know what they already know, that's not love. That's surveillance. I finished my coffee and left through the back exit. I didn't go to work. I didn't go home. I went somewhere I hadn't been in years. The public transit office. I needed to see him. Mr. Otis. If he knew enough to warn me. He knew more. I found him sitting on a bench outside, same calm posture as before. Like he'd been expecting me. "You didn't get in the car," he said. Not a question. A statement. I nodded. He exhaled slowly, like someone relieved the worst version of a story didn't come true. "That was smart," he said, "but it's not over." My stomach dropped. "What was going to happen?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He looked past me, scanning the street. Then back at me. "You weren't the target," he said quietly. "You were the obstacle. You weren't the target." The words didn't land right away. They just hovered between us. "What does that mean?" I asked. Mr. Otis didn't answer immediately. He leaned back on the bench, hands folded, eyes steady. "Means this wasn't about hurting you directly," he said. "It was about moving you out of the way. When someone tells you you're an obstacle in your own marriage, you realize how little of it you actually controlled." I felt cold. Not scared. Clear. "What was he planning?" I asked again. Mr. Otis reached into his coat and pulled out a thin notebook. Worn. Creased. Handled carefully, like it mattered. "I used to drive your husband," he said. "Back when I worked for his company." I already knew that part. What I didn't know was how closely he'd been watching. "He talked in the backseat," Otis continued. "On the phone, to people he thought I didn't matter enough to notice." I swallowed. "He rented that car yesterday," Otis said. "Not for work." My chest tightened. "Who was the other name on the agreement?" I asked. Otis met my eyes. "A woman," he said. "And a child. Some betrayals don't feel sharp, they feel heavy." I didn't cry. I didn't gasp. I felt embarrassed. Embarrassed that this man I lived with had a whole other life that ran so smoothly without me noticing. "He was supposed to pick her up first," Otis said. "Then you." My stomach flipped. "Why me?" I whispered. "Because you sign things," Otis said simply. "Because you don't ask questions, because you trust." That hurt more than anything else. Trust isn't weakness until someone uses it as a weapon. Otis flipped open the notebook. Inside were dates, addresses, amounts, transfers. Small ones at first, then bigger, regular, consistent. "Money moved through accounts you manage," he said. "Bills you cover, payments you think are shared." I felt dizzy. "That other family," he said, "they weren't surviving. They were being supported." I closed my eyes. Every skipped lunch. Every "we'll pay you back." Every quiet sacrifice. They hadn't disappeared. They'd been redirected. The worst part of being used isn't the loss. It's realizing how long it went on. "Why tell me now?" I asked. Otis looked away. "Because yesterday," he said, "I heard him say something that crossed a line." "What line?" "That if you didn't cooperate, it would be easier if you weren't involved anymore." Silence fell heavy between us. I felt my pulse slow. That calm again. The dangerous kind. "Did he say how?" I asked. Otis nodded once. "A car accident," he said. "Something small, believable." My hands clenched. I finally understood. The warning. The car. The waiting. This wasn't paranoia. This was planning. And that was the moment I stopped thinking like a wife and started thinking like someone who needed to survive. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't panic. That surprised me. Because once fear crosses a certain threshold, it doesn't scream, it sharpens. "What proof do you have?" I asked. Mr. Otis didn't hesitate. He slid the notebook toward me. Inside were photocopies. Bank statements. Rental receipts. Transit logs. Everything dated. Everything connected. When lies are exposed on paper, they lose their power. "These are backups," Otis said. "I kept them because I knew one day someone would need them." I scanned the pages slowly. Every transfer traced back to accounts I managed. Accounts I trusted. Money I assumed went toward our future. "It adds up," he said. Enough to start over, just not with you. The betrayal settled deeper than anger. It felt surgical. Why didn't you stop him? I asked. Otis met my eyes. Because I was fired the day I asked questions. That explained it. Silence was his survival. Truth was mine. The moment you stop denying reality is the moment control shifts back to you. I took photos of every page. Hands steady. Breathing even. I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. When will he notice I'm not playing along? I asked. Otis didn't sugarcoat it. Soon, he said. People like him notice when their leverage disappears. As if summoned, my phone buzzed. A message from my husband. Can you transfer the utilities today? I stared at the screen. This time, I didn't reply. Silence is terrifying to someone who relies on control. I stood up. What do I do now? I asked. Otis gave a small nod. You document everything, he said. You don't confront yet. And you stop funding a life that excludes you. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. Not to cry. Not to confront. To audit. Every recurring charge. Every shared account. Every automatic payment. I hadn't looked closely in years. Because trust had made me lazy. I wouldn't make that mistake again. Boundaries don't start with confrontation. They start with clarity. I canceled nothing yet. I just mapped it. Where money flowed. Who benefited. What stopped functioning if I stepped back. And that's when I saw it. A dependency web. They didn't just rely on me. They assumed I'd never leave. I closed the laptop. And for the first time, I slept without pretending everything was fine. Because I wasn't planning revenge, I was planning independence. I didn't confront him. Not yet. People think confrontation is strength. It is. Timing is. I waited. Watched. Listened. The moment you stop reacting, manipulators start exposing themselves. For 2 days, I acted normal. I smiled when he came home. I nodded through his stories. I transferred nothing. On the 3rd day, the cracks showed. The internet went out first. Then the utilities flagged late. Then his phone started lighting up more than usual. He didn't accuse me. He tested. Did you change something? He asked casually over dinner. I met his eyes. No, I said. Truthful. Because I hadn't yet. Watching someone realize their control is slipping is unsettlingly quiet. That night, he stayed up later than usual. I pretended to sleep. I listened to his footsteps pace the living room. The next morning, I pulled the thread. Just one. I canceled the smallest recurring payment. Something harmless. Something he'd never admit he needed. By noon, my phone rang. His brother. Not him. That told me everything. When someone sends a messenger instead of calling themselves, it's because they're scared. What's going on? His brother asked. Things are getting messy. I kept my voice calm. I'm simplifying my finances, I said. A pause. That affects people, he replied. Yes, I said. It affects me too. Click. That evening, my husband finally snapped. Not angry. Worried. He stood in the doorway, like someone bracing for bad news. We need to talk, he said. I nodded. Tomorrow, I replied. He didn't like that. Because he didn't control tomorrow anymore. Control only works when it's immediate. The next day, I met Mr. Otis again. He handed me one last envelope. Inside, copies of the rental agreement. Both names highlighted. A child listed as a dependent. This is the piece they'll deny hardest, he said. I thanked him. Then I did something he didn't expect. I walked away. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I walked like someone who finally understood the map. Because once you see the full picture, you stop asking for permission to leave it. I didn't rehearse what I was going to say. That was intentional. Scripts are for people who still want approval. I wanted truth. When you stop trying to be understood, conversations get very honest. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Same place we'd planned vacations. Same place we'd argued about groceries. Same place I'd signed paperwork without reading the fine print. He spoke first. You've been distant, he said. Things are falling apart. I nodded. Yes, I said. They are. He frowned. That wasn't the response he expected. I found the rental agreement, I continued calmly. The one with the second name. Silence. Not shock. Calculation. Guilt looks very different from fear, and I finally knew how to tell them apart. It's not what you think, he said. I slid the folder across the table. The notebook copies. The transfers. The dates. It's exactly what I think, I replied. He didn't deny it. That's when the story shifted. It was supposed to be temporary, he said. She needed help, the child. I raised my hand. Stop, I said. I'm not interested in the justification. His voice sharpened. You're overreacting. There it was. Gaslighting always arrives right on schedule. I stopped the payments, I said. His face changed. Not anger. Panic. You can't just do that, he snapped. People depend on that money. I know, I said softly. I was one of them. He leaned back, stunned. You're trying to ruin me, he said. No, I replied. I'm refusing to disappear quietly. Another pause. Longer this time. Then he asked the question he should have asked years ago. What do you want? I stood. I want my name off anything that funds a life I wasn't invited into, I said. And I want my future protected. The moment boundaries are spoken out loud, they become real. I told him I'd already spoken to a lawyer. Not as a threat. As a fact. He didn't follow me when I left the room. He didn't chase. He didn't argue. Because for the first time, he knew. This wasn't a phase. This was an ending. And endings don't ask for permission. The aftermath wasn't loud. No screaming matches. No dramatic phone calls. No public apologies. Just silence. And silence is where consequences live. People expect walking away to feel explosive, but most of the time, it feels quiet. Within weeks, things unraveled. Bills didn't line up anymore. Plans got delayed. Excuses stopped working. The life he'd built in the shadows couldn't stand on its own. Not without my name attached to it. He called once. Left a voicemail. Careful. Measured. He wanted to talk things through. That phrase used to work on me. It didn't anymore. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Because every time I almost dialed back, I remembered that morning at the bus stop. The engine running. The waiting. What almost happened. What I narrowly stepped around. That memory didn't scare me anymore. It protected me. The legal part moved quietly, cleanly. No courtroom drama. Just signatures. Just separation. Just relief. Sometimes the most powerful win is the one no one sees. I rebuilt my life in small ways. Different routines. Different financial rules. Different standards for trust. I stopped explaining myself. Stopped cushioning discomfort. Stopped carrying weight that wasn't mine. People asked if I regretted it. Leaving. Choosing myself. I always answered the same way. No. Because regret only lives where denial survives. Peace isn't passive, it's protected. I don't know what happened to the other life he was funding. And I don't need to. That chapter closed when I closed the accounts. What I do know is this. Walking away didn't destroy my family. It exposed the truth. And once truth is visible, it doesn't need defense. It stands on its own. So if you're listening to this, and something feels familiar, if you've ever been told you're overreacting while quietly holding everything together, if you've ever felt like love required silence, let me ask you something. If you stopped carrying what was never yours, what would finally fall apart, and what might finally set you free? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more real stories about boundaries, clarity, and quiet strength, make sure you're subscribed. Because sometimes the strongest thing a woman can do is walk away without asking